You see, something is going to happen. Something wonderful.
My God, it's full of stars.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the NY Patriot Show. Today I'm coming at you with two guests. One that actually both of them I've had on my show multiple times. I have Bryan McClain, which I have had on for Kylie Rodney, Ukraine, FTX, a couple other things. Amazing podcaster. Somebody that I love having on, and you know what I think it is? I think it's because we both come from different angles. That's why we do so well together.
Yeah, I find that balance is valuable in conversation. I appreciate that.
Because like I could look at, if people were to go and see your show, it's probably like a very different than mine. But I love having you on. I really do. Thank you.
Oh yeah. No, I love it too, and I love it when you join me on my TNT radio show. And we're gonna have to get you on like a boiler room sometime soon too at Alternate Current Radio. Yeah, we have such a great time. I really enjoy the conversations. I don't know if we're solving any crimes or anything, but they sure are fun to talk about, man.
Yes, exactly. And I also have NYX on with me that I've had on before. I think I might even have. No, I think everything's dropped that I've had you on already with, right?
Yeah.
There can be times when I actually have a guest coming back on and I haven't dropped the first one, so just making sure. First, I'll start with you, Bryan. I'm sure most people have heard my show or watched it, already know who you are, but just in case they don't, can you let everybody know like what you're about, what your show's about, and where to find it?
Yeah, sure. So I host a show at TNT Radio Live, tntradio.live. That's the web address there. Or TNT Radio if you're looking for the app. It's a 24/7 freedom of speech oriented news platform, daily news platform out of Australia. It really is a standout in independent media. It's independently owned and ran by our colleagues out there in Australia down under, who suffered some of the worst COVID bullcrap lockdowns and the worst of it, the absolute worst of it, a lot of the worst stuff we saw came out of Australia. So I think I can't speak for them on this, but I believe that part of the drive for them to come forward and create that network was to help expose some of that stuff and give people like me and our colleagues there and yourself and all the guests that come through there a place where they can speak freely. So I really enjoy that. And before that, and also concurrently with that, I run alternatecurrentradio.com, where I host a show called The Boiler Room. It's a roundtable sort of a format there that I run with all my colleagues at Alternate Current Radio. So that show's in its 9th year, and we've been focused on breaking down propaganda. Mostly, our mission has mostly been to examine cultural manipulation and propaganda and media manipulation, although we also like geopolitics, power politics, metapolitics, philosophy, religion, all that kind of stuff. So we try to curate and produce a number of shows there at alternatecurrentradio.com that are sort of in those swim lanes. So thanks for giving me an opportunity to say hi to everybody that may not have seen me here before, and let them know where they can find me. That's great. I'm live Monday through Friday with TNT at noon Pacific, 2 Central, 3 p.m. Eastern. And we got a live chat room and a call-in number and all that good stuff. So if you want to call and weigh in anytime, Monday through Friday.
Very nice. Thank you. And I hate to put you on the spot because maybe I'm wrong, but on the Boiler Room, is Oddman on that with you like as a...
I love it when you put me on the spot. No, it's great. Yeah, he joins us as often as he can.
Oh,
he's
okay, all right.
Yeah, he's with us most Thursday nights. We do that show live on Thursday nights at Alternate Current Radio. Right, we do it in a very Stony style where we kind of start whenever we're ready. We start getting ready around 8 p.m. Central Time, and it starts when it starts and it ends when it ends. It's a pretty free-flowing sort of thing. They've been really spicy episodes lately. I've had to put them on Rockfin only because YouTube just can't hang with the Boiler Room most of the time.
Yeah. But the reason why I brought that up is because I've had both of yous on this show so many times. So if you've heard Odd Man, to go check out the Boiler Room as well. They'll both be on there. So there you go. And NYX, I know that unfortunately you don't have a show, but you do have an Instagram account that you use and that you are starting to kind of post and work with. Would you like to give that a plug? I do have
Sure.
I have actually both your links in the notes already, but would you like to plug that?
Sure. Yeah, I was just thinking, wow, Brian's a hard act to follow here. Yeah, I just have an Instagram account. And you can find me at NYX, that's NYX.1223. So, and I just am into all kinds of topics of high strangeness, and my posts tend to cover those topics.
That's a really good way to explain it. High strangeness. I like that. Because it's like a bunch of just everything, really. So
that's how I feel, and that's why I've started using it.
Read me that Instagram handle one more time, Nick.
Yeah, it's NYX, NYX.1223.
All right, now I got you. I'm connected with you.
Okay.
Really.
Nice. There you go. But I guess as people can tell from the title of the show, it's about the Idaho 4 murders. Now, maybe not everybody knows what even the Idaho 4 murders are. I don't know if I can give kind of an example, but I don't know if maybe one of you want to maybe cover what actually the news. Maybe Bryan, if you are okay with that, like.
Yeah, sure.
Because you're so good with like covering.
Oh, it's second nature,
You'll
no
sound
problem. Yeah, I'll lay out the who, what, when, where, and then we can work on the why. Okay, so the killings of 4 University of Idaho students in mid-November of 22 at an off-campus residence has stunned the small community of Moscow, where investigators grapple with what the town's police chief would later describe as a very complex case. Yeah, that's an understatement. So no suspect was immediately named in the deaths of housemates Madison Mogan, sorry if I mispronounce any of these, Kylie Goncalves, and Xana Kernodle, as well as Kernodle's boyfriend, Ethan Chapman. These young people are all between 20 and 21. There was not a murder weapon. The murder weapon was believed to be a large fixed blade knife. But I do not believe it has been found at this point. We'll get to that. Yeah, that's right. The sheath. So the sheath was kind of the big tell, right? That was apparently they got DNA information off of that. So, but anyways, this went unsolved for a while. I think it was like, it's like 7 weeks later.
It's been long enough that there's actually been a show about it already.
Yes,
like I said, I
exactly.
forgot what platform, but that shows you how long ago this happened.
Right. So a lot can happen in that amount of time. So then let's see. It goes on and on and on. Like there's a whole bunch of bullet points about, what was released in the mainstream media here, reading from one of the mainstream timelines via NBC News, I believe. But on November 17, they got autopsy results showing that the 4 victims were likely attacked with a large knife and died sometime after 2 a.m. from multiple stab wounds. The Latah County coroner described their wounds as, quote unquote, pretty extensive. So a brutal knife attack there on all 4 victims, apparently. The police said the victims were most likely asleep when they were slain, and some of them had defensive wounds. So clearly some of them woke up when the attacks happened, and I guess obviously they weren't able to defend themselves successfully. So, then they have vigils and They, confirm it's a targeted attack. They leave some bumper sticker statements about it. And then on, what was it? It was in December. I think on December 5th, detectives focus on Chapin and Kernodle's activities on the evening they were killed and asked for public information about the nearly 5 hours from when the couple arrived at the Sigma Chi party to the apartment house on King Road where this happened. And then let's see here on December, trying to find the part where they actually, here it is, December 30th. It goes all the way to December 30th. And then the police announced the arrest of suspect Bryan Christopher Kohberger, age 28, a resident of Pullman, Washington, then a doctoral student at Washington State University. And he was apprehended in northeastern Pennsylvania, about 2,500 miles from the Idaho campus, charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and burglary. And according to law enforcement sources, DNA evidence played a key role in linking the killings to Kohberger. So there's your overhead.
Yeah, that was a pretty good overhead. Thank you. And now, yeah, that case.
So many questions, right?
Yeah.
Like just in the timeline there, it's like pump the brakes. And while this is going on, after December 30th, I'm trying to monitor this stuff, and I start seeing crazy stuff. I was looking for this before we got together. Maybe one of you guys has it or can speak to it or debunk it or whatever. But I saw reports going around saying that his uncle had to buy a separate set of cookware because this Kohberger guy is some sort of he's a vegetarian or a vegan, but he is that because he has cannibalistic tendencies, and he's afraid if he eats off of anything that had meat on it, he's going to want to eat people. Now, I read that many weeks ago. It was in the New York Times or New York Post, I believe. So, dreaded New York Post. I don't know if there's any. I didn't get to fact check it, frankly. So, but I started. It made me start having visions of the serial killer program, and all the stuff that has come out about all the serial killers in the past, and the way that streaming services for the last, I'd say, 2 years have been just stacking up all of the serial killers and giving you the definitive, like, here's the Ministry of Truth version of Dahmer. Here's the Ministry of Truth version on, Son of Sam. Ted Bundy.
Gacy.
Go down the line.
Well,
Gacy,
not only that, but like Bryan Kohberger's from Pennsylvania. He went out to Washington August 2022 for the PhD program at Washington State. And I'm thinking, like, why Washington? There's like a dozen serial killers that have been in Washington, that have either from Washington or apprehended in Washington. So I found that, kind of, strange. So I would be interested to know why he decided to go all the way on the other side of the country for this PhD program in a state that's notorious for a lot of big name serial killers.
Yeah, and how Ted Bundy is that to go after like frat people and it's so Ted Bundy. It smacks of Ted Bundy. It smacks of as NY pointed out, Jack the Ripper. Yep,
Richard
that one
Speck.
too. Yep.
Yeah, I joke about it, but then it's like sometimes, Jack the Ripper, my opinion, a lot of stuff with that has to be questionable if he was even a Mason. The movie From Hell even points at him being a Mason. So even people have made movies suggesting that he might have been. So, like, I'll already start thinking, like, possible occultism. And, like, I know I joke about it, but, like, who knows? But, like, we had Jack the Ripper. That was in 1888. Idaho College came to be in 1889. And now you got Kohberger stabbing up some dude, stabbing people there. And a house that has an address of 1122, that either it could be 33 next, or you could add the two together and you'll get 33. And Kohberger lived in G Building. So, now you get a Mason symbol.
Yeah.
And that G on the sign looks very Mason. Like,
it has a diamond around it if it was the
G.
Right.
Square. Mm-hmm. It's just things that make you go like, and then the whole serial killer thing, which I do question a lot of those. Like, I think a lot of those are like MK Ultra gone wrong or gone well, actually.
Yeah. Same. Yeah,
sometimes I think
right
they may not
chase.
have been done yet. Sometimes I think they didn't finish yet, and then they lose their minds. That's why I say gone wrong.
They go rogue.
Yeah, because we're like, damn it, you weren't supposed to get caught yet. We weren't done training you.
Right? Well, I mean, think about it this way. I enjoyed, actually, I watched all those documentaries. I enjoyed them, and I learned things from them.
Yes.
But I also saw the holes in them. I saw the parts where it was like they're sort of quietly telling you what might have been going on. Like, if you're a critical thinker, there's valuable parts in some of those. And in particular, I found the Henry Lee Lucas one to be very interesting, because Henry Lee and Ted Bundy, in that sense, in the same sense, they both moved around allegedly so much that there's just this endless trail of bodies. And it's like, once these yokel cops get one of these guys, they start, in my opinion, and this is something I gleaned from reading many books, reading many cases, watching all those documentaries, watching the older documentaries, and reading this book right
Dave
here.
McGowan.
Yep, Program
Yeah,
to
Program to
Kill.
Kill. Yep.
It's
that will
a
fill
must.
in all the stuff they don't tell you on the documentaries.
Exactly. It's a must, and it's to do with human trafficking, child sex abuse, MK Ultra, these kind of things. They're all very, very real underneath the surface of what's going on, and they proved, if you look at the Henry Lee Lucas case, it's pretty obvious that it's a fact. I'll go out and say, I believe that cops from all over the nation were laundering unsolved cases via serial killers. They were just closing cases left and right, and many of them are proven that could not have been done by said serial killers. So there's a rash of that. People come from all over the nation to try to close cold cases, or maybe even close out cases that they're trying to cover up.
And what's interesting, Brian, is you bring up Henry Lee Lucas, is he was the only person George W. Bush pardoned. Out of all these serial killers in Texas, they'll just execute left and right. And he's the only one. I heard someone talking, on, I think a podcast the other day, that there was even a little old lady that was executed, but he decided to pardon Henry Lee Lucas for whatever reason.
I know. And what we just laid out right there is the ostensible reason that they were laundering cases through him, that they can't prove that all these things that they say he did, he actually did. But at the same time, they know he killed a lot of people. They're sure he killed a lot of people. And who ran some of these MK Ultra programs? Who benefited from the MK Ultra programs? Well, the CIA. And who's Bush related to? Well, CIA.
Papa Bush.
Papa Bush, former director of CIA. You think he's not? You think all the president's kids don't get secret clearances and are immune from any sort of punishment and punitive damage? I mean, that's what's going on with Hunter. That's my assumption about what's going on with Hunter. They can smear Hunt. They can show us footage of him literally smoking crack out of a teenage hooker's toes, and nothing will come of it. And why? Because he's an asset. All this Burisma stuff. It's asset stuff that operatives are doing. And if you think that George W. Bush was not in that same category, then you're missing part of the pyramid here.
Or all the dirty stuff the Clintons did. Before the Bill Clinton's presidency, while Hillary was secretary, nothing happened or came about any of it.
No, we'll get cool congressional hearings. They'll blow some steam off. We'll all say, "See, we knew it." But do they ever, quote unquote, lock them up? No. Trump's back now, and all he's got for his platform is free speech. We went from lock them all up and drain the swamp to, can we just have free speech, please? While we're all sitting out here going, could we just not be poisoned, please? Could we just not have World War III, please?
That's funny. That's a good point. Real quick, Brian, did I ever mention that guy Edwards Lansdale to you?
I don't recall.
Have you ever heard of him before?
No, fill me in.
Well, because I was just thinking this might be actually a good topic for your show if I ever come on it. When I come on it again, maybe, because it might fit. It might be
for
so
sure.
Conspiratorial.
He's trying to take a hint, Brian.
No. I was just thinking because you mentioned the CIA, and I had covered him because he was in the CIA. He was kind of like the Aquino before Aquino, actually. And he was heavy in Vietnam and the Philippines in the Vietnam War. He was involved with actually overthrowing the Filipino government and installing their president.
Oh wow! Okay, this is starting to ring a bell now.
He had helicopters flying over places that there were the Hucks guys. They were saying they were communists. They were really farmers actually fighting fascism, saying, "Yo, we just want to be left alone."
Yeah,
and of course, the U.S. government.
Please don't poison us. Please don't kill us. Please don't bring us war.
And that didn't work out for what we wanted to accomplish. So, they were even flying helicopters over, screaming in ghost voices, saying it's the souls of, the dead Hucks. Telling the sympathizers, if you're housing them, when you die, you won't be able to go to heaven. We're going to come and haunt you. They were spray painting eyes on people's houses to scare them. They took people, hung them upside down drained their necks and made people think there was vampires in the hills killing the sympathizers.
Dude, did you see?
Isn't that what the cartel does?
That's
Yeah.
MK Ultra shit right there.
Today I saw a news report that caught my eye. I clicked in, and it was a report about a family that had that had made a suicide pact and carried it out. I forget what state this was in, but it all started because it was a husband, a wife, and a young adult daughter. I forget if she was a teenager or 20s. I don't think she was older than 21. And she started hearing voices, and it was so bad, and they couldn't do anything for her, that she decided she was going to kill herself. And she made a suicide pact with her mom, and then they told the dad, and the dad allegedly, this is what the news story said, dad was like, well, I can't live without you guys. So yeah, three gunshot wounds to the head, one self-inflicted, extensive suicide note describing the daughter hearing voices. And I can't help but start to wonder about, what is happening to all the people out there that have been genetically modified at this point by mRNA stuff. Like, because I keep hearing stories where it's like, okay, that's a serious, like, MK Ultra style meltdown right there. Like, people are losing their shit.
It was like contagious too.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah. What the hell?
Wow,
I mean, I don't know what to say about that one, other than like, is this where we're at right now? Like, is this going to become common, or are we going to? Is the daily shooter program is back? It was kind of gone during the Trump years, and now it's back. The serial killer phenomenon may be coming back, and it's got a big marketing push behind it. If it is, like, the most popular show on Netflix last year was Dahmer, Wednesday, and Stranger Things. And Dahmer, I believe, was the most popular until Wednesday came along. So, I mean, everybody has cannibalism on the mind. Everybody has, all the true crime nuts out there. What's the biggest podcasting
Army
realm right
Hammer?
now? Yep.
That's another one. Yeah.
Totally.
I mean, I'll be honest, even since I've started my own podcast 2 years ago, I have seen so many, like you listed off, so many serial killers on multiple things. It could be Netflix, it could be also on Prime, or they could be on Peacock. I mean, there's like multiple things being made about a lot of them, and
like that American Horror Story season in the hotel, all serial killers. I mean, pretty brilliant writing. So most seasons of that show really suck, but I enjoyed that one because I have a serial killer obsession, and they recreated them all.
And cannibalism too. Like I said, there's Army Hammer, but you see these celebrities, having these parties with Marina Abramovich and the mock like cannibalism cakes they have. You have the movie Fresh that came out on Hulu about, elites ordering, human flesh to consume. It definitely does seem to be a trending topic right now.
Yeah. All right, so I was going to get back to, if you don't mind, we'll get back to the Idaho. But I was thinking about, and I was wondering if maybe you would know a little bit more about this, NYX. But I was like, what? Because at first I was a little confused about, like, how do we even start this? And I'm just thinking, maybe we'll just take it from, like, him leaving his house and going there. I'm not sure about that, but do you know anything? Like, he just got in his car and left and headed there. Is that the case so far?
Well, I just know that he's originally from Pennsylvania, and he, in August of 2022, went out for the PhD program because he got his master's of criminal justice from DeSales University, which is the university in Eastern Pennsylvania. And he even studied under a well-known forensic psychologist. Her name's Catherine Ramsland. And she actually collaborated with Dennis Rader, the BTK killer, for one of her books. But he was one of 34 students.
More serial killers.
Yes. He was one of 34 students in Washington State's criminal justice and criminology program. And the website previously showed, which it's since been removed, the program comprised of 24 PhD students, which Bryan was one of those students. And then there was 10 students pursuing their master's degree there. So, but he actually moved there from Pennsylvania in August of 2022, from what I found. And I think that was the New York Post that stated that.
Yeah, that's even another thing, I guess, maybe like as we get farther into it, though, I can mention it now. Like, even some of the stuff that he went to school for, I just find it weird. It doesn't mean, listen, you can make mistakes all the time, but you would think if you went to school also for the crime stuff that he did, how do you actually make every single mistake in the book, though? Except for leaving the knife.
It's supposed to be how to get away with murder, not how to get caught.
Yeah.
I mean, leaving a bloody sheath next to one of the bodies. Like, okay, so here's one of the things I don't understand, you guys. He went to all these great lengths, right? He should be okay. I mean, the image that we all get from this, that a doctoral student, in criminology is going to be some sort of mastermind if they want to go out and do a homicide or four. So he goes to the trouble to take his license plate off of his Hyundai, but he doesn't get a car that's not his, so they've got make and model on the car. But I mean, obviously he's doing little things to try to, if you believe this timeline, he does do things that you would think someone like he, with his background and education, might do. But then to commit the ultimate sin of leaving your DNA next to one of the bodies, like, and as far as we can tell, I mean, they didn't arrest this guy until December 30th. So it's not like, you know what I mean? It's not like he had to leave quickly. Yeah. They say that he ran into the two other people that were staying there, or one of them saw him or something like that. But I mean, that's not a reason to leave your DNA and your murder weapon sheath laying next to a body. It's almost like an orgy of evidence on purpose.
Yeah.
Or I wonder if he bit off more than he can chew. I mean, they said the murders occurred between 4 and 4:25, and they even talked about his car was first spotted in the neighborhood because they did a camera canvas, of personal cameras and business cameras in the area. But the vehicle was first spotted at 3:29 a.m. and it was shown fleeing the sea at 4:20 a.m. But because there was a DoorDash delivery for, I think it was Kernodle, at 4. Right? And that, yes, at 4. And at 4:12, she was active on her phone. So, and the vehicle fled at 4:20. So that seems like a very, very quick attack, assassin level. So I'm almost wondering, since the other roommates were home in bed before Kernodle and her boyfriend Ethan, if he maybe was hiding in the house.
Oh,
interesting. I hadn't thought of that.
Because, his car was spotted first in the area at 3:29. So he could have been there, for a little bit. I
mean, because I don't know if you just mentioned it before, but I think the people who lived in the house even had confirmed that everybody was back by 2 a.m. anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the one thing I find weird, just another one of the weird things. So yeah, you just basically went through, I guess, kind of the timeline of when people got home and when the crime happened. There was the one of the girls who was that lived. She opened her door multiple times to look out, but never called the cops until how much longer later? Hours, right?
Yeah, it was I think 11, around 11:30.
I could see opening your door maybe once, but for what reason? I mean, I would think if I'm just playing listen, let's just all be honest. If you're laying in your bed and you get up 3 times to open your door and look down a hallway, there's a reason you just did that.
Mm-hmm.
That's not just a thing people do for the fuck of it.
And when you see somebody dressed in all black and their face is covered, but what's really interesting is there was a woman who came out and defended that roommate. Her name's Alana Zabel, and she was a survivor of a 1992 attack at a student home in Buffalo, so that's 30 years ago. And she was defending the roommate who saw the suspect and didn't immediately call 911. And you can read on her experience and how her and her roommate were raped. And her roommate was left with severe brain damage. And and she talked about like trauma responses and stuff. This Alana Zabel also is the former yoga instructor of Adam Levine from Maroon 5. And it was from 2000 to 2010. She was his instructor, and she claimed he texted her and asked her for nudes. But it's very interesting that 30 years, from her attack to this, and she defends this roommate. So I found that interesting when I saw her come up in the news regarding that.
That's another big coincidence. That's kind of like, what?
Like this degrees of separation is just like so weird, right?
What are the odds?
The connections, right? Just those weird.
Yeah. And I tried really hard to find like the month and the month and day, but I couldn't find it because I was wondering like how close was it, to the attack? Was it close to it, or was it, But so lots of weird stuff going on in Buffalo too recently.
Oh, really? Whew. And okay, so now what about?
Yeah, and real quick, I forgot exactly how long it was. I don't know if maybe one of you know this is specific, but like how many hours was it after the fact that the cops actually did finally get called? Do any of you know? I think
it was like 11. It was like around
11:30, right?
It was like it was like 11:30 a.m. I think it was like 11:29 maybe or something. Like it was way later.
Wow. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see. At 11:58 a.m., a 911 call is placed on the cell phone of one of the other housemates requesting assistance for an unconscious person. So it's noon, basically. It's 2 minutes to noon when they make the call. So I don't know, night of partying, maybe. I mean, obviously these kids party.
2 minutes to noon. Wow. Instead of 2 minutes to midnight, it's 2 minutes to noon.
Yeah, how about that? They just changed the doomsday clock to 90 seconds last week too.
I heard that, yeah. What was up with that?
Stupid story. It's just Cold War propaganda reboot.
That's what I got out of it. The one thing I came across that somebody was just saying, it's just like...
Yeah, in short, that was the whole purpose for its inception back in 1947.
And and to get back to the case, this is another thing, like depending on how much time he had. Well, first... Let's even get to the fact that he ended up in the car with his father on the way home. How does that even happen?
Yeah, and what's this I'm hearing about the FBI like wanting to pull them over? There was a weird like
he got pulled over once or twice after the murder.
Yeah. Pictures of your hands or something like that.
I'm trying to find it here because I wrote it down.
But all right. While you're looking, the one thing that I was going to get at that I heard somebody else bring up, and I was like, that's a really, really good point. Now, if your father is coming to pick you up or whatever, I mean, maybe it wasn't a thought right away.
I think it was for his company.
Yeah, something like that. But now, you just stabbed 4 people. You're totally clean.
Extensively stabbed.
Your father, nobody noticed.
No, that's a fucking bloodbath, dude. That's like
change of clothes. Did you take a shower? Did you what happened?
We're talking Sharon Tate level amounts of blood. You know what I mean?
So like now, like we're saying, but still, even like we're saying, he could have been at the house maybe by 2 hiding, but in that window of time.
No, he actually.
How did all that get accomplished?
So, no, he actually was in the vehicle with his father to drive back to Pennsylvania for Christmas, and that was in the early hours of December 13th. So there had been a period of time that had transpired from that.
Okay.
So,
all right.
But, so it was the early hours of December 13th when Kohberger left his Washington State University apartment with his dad to head home in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. When the FBI agents lost him. So it varies depending on which news source you look at, anywhere from several hours to 14 hours. They caught back up to him in Loma, Colorado, because the automated license plate reader got him. Mm-hmm. So
at least we know they're admitting that those are out there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, they are. According
to Bryan's father, Michael, I guess when he came out, he was talking to the mechanic servicing his son's car, which is interesting. I wonder what they were servicing exactly, or there's any cleaning involved or whatnot. But his dad suggested leaving the early hours of the 13th, and he thought they would take I-90 back home, and it's approximately a 36-hour trip. But Bryan, according to his father, insisted the northern route across I-90 because of wintry weather conditions, better to head away from the weather, even if it adds hours or even a day to the trip. So they button hooked south toward Colorado, where he picked up I-70, which added 6 to 7 additional hours to the trip.
Are there any of those routes known for like murders or serial killers as well too, or no? You know how like there's some serial killers that like are known for like, you know, dropping bodies.
I don't know
of
any offhand, but I mean, I-90 is a pretty big interstate that goes across the country, so I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean that could just be because it's so huge anyway.
Yeah, I think all the major interstates have them. I mean,
right?
going back to Henry Lee Lucas, it was Highway 35 out here in Central Texas.
And then you had
even with the
a couple
Kylie
years
Rodney,
ago, Samuel Little.
Yes, I was thinking of him too.
Yep.
90,
and they still
93.
haven't identified all his victims, but he's made sketches of all of them, and they've put them like up on the FBI website, hoping people can like, you know, say, hey, this looks like a missing person that I knew or a family member and stuff. And there's still many that haven't been identified. And I know they're also listed on NYX, which is the government website for missing people who haven't been found or unidentified remains that haven't been ID'd, as well as the Doe Network, which does the same thing, but they're a volunteer organization.
Now, do you think the driving, because somebody just asked in the chat, and I thought that was a good question, you know, why would you not just fly there? And then I'm thinking, well, maybe he was actually trying to, like, because if you were to fly now, there's proof, because you have to use ID to buy a ticket that you actually went there.
Right.
So, I mean, maybe even the idea of him driving was like
maybe to get the vehicle as far as away from the crime scene as he can, because, you know, trace evidences can easily be found, whether it's blood, hair, fibers. Like he might have cleaned his car fairly well, but maybe he was, you know, worried or concerned that he didn't clean it thorough enough and just wanted to get it away from the crime scene.
Now, isn't that another
maybe
thing?
he'd leave it in Pennsylvania when he went back if he hadn't gotten caught. I'm not sure.
Now, isn't that even another thing? I could be wrong, but like I thought I seen like people questioning or wondering how about stuff with dog hair DNA. Aren't they even saying that they think they might have been able to have recovered dog hair from his residence that was owned from the girl in the house?
They said hair. They said, you know, it didn't say, I think, specifically animal hair, but I think people are speculating, you know, that's something they could be looking for, because that would be something unique to the, I think it was Kaylee's dog. Those dogs, I think she had like a Labradoodle, and they shed, but they're considered hyperallergenic, so they don't shed as much. So they don't shed as much as a lot of the other dog breeds, but you know, if there is an animal at a location of a murder, a lot of times, you know, investigators will look for animal hairs as well to try to see if it ties back to the crime scene.
I think I remember one time I came across a case that was solved by that, because like the person had like a rare albino dog. And they were like, oh, like, yeah,
was it the one with the hair?
The odds of that
hair
is just
found
like using
in the
DNA evidence. Like,
was the hair found in the trunk?
I don't remember that, but I remember it was like an albino dog, and that was already a rare dog to begin with. They're like, come on, like, no, your neighbor doesn't have this dog too. Like, sorry, like, you know. But all right, so like, all right, we have some of that. We just talked about the timing, the driving, the fact of school. You know, all that stuff that we just talked about, I already thought kind of gives a little bit of weirdness, a high strangeness to it. But now kind of moving into the case, and now I guess maybe going into the lawyer situation, too, that we were just talking about prior to starting. That is another weird situation, I think, with this.
One more question on the timeline. So did I get it right? Did you guys, maybe I missed this, but if he wasn't in the house already, the four multiple stab wound murders happened in 8 minutes.
That's why I was saying, how did you clean up too?
Yeah.
Well, it didn't sound like he cleaned up a lot. Not what in the home anyways, maybe, you know, I know they said they spotted his car back on campus at 5:35 a.m. So, and he had fled the neighborhood of the murder at 4:20. So he was back on campus, Washington State, at 5:35 a.m.
So I gotta just say, if he wasn't in the house already, it seems unlikely that anyone, especially a novice murderer, could do that in 8 minutes. I think if someone wasn't already in the house, the only way that could have happened is if a crew of professionals went in there, you know, two to four people, and did those murders.
And I know people will say, well, they could have been sleeping. Well, there was 2 people to each room. So, like, you know, you may be like assaulting and killing one person, but you got another person that you can't necessarily control at the same time. So that's wild to me too. Like, that he was able to, you know, do it so quickly in both. Like, I
like, does this guy have tactical, like, edge weapon training that we should know about? Because it just seems unlikely to be able to, one person, even someone who, you know, is inexperienced in those regards. It seems like unlikely that they could do that to 4 people in 8 minutes. I mean,
yeah, that seems like assassin level training.
Yeah, right. Like, then you start thinking about teams and people in wearing all black and masks. Oh wait, there was someone spotted in all black and a mask. So I don't know. It's just, you know, it makes me stop and go,
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. That's why I had even brought up the, you know, just stating, like, I would just think you'd be covered. You'd be a mess. That's just my opinion. So
yeah, right. Sure. Shouldn't there be like what did the crime scene look like? Shouldn't there be just like buckets of blood everywhere and like shoe prints of blood leading out of the house? Like, how do these other people in the house? I'm trying to not be mean to them. Yeah. How do these other people in the house not wake up until noon and notice that? And then the call is for unconscious person. The call should be, there's a fucking bloodbath in here. Oh my God. You know,
I would imagine,
I was thinking, you know,
they were all
4 people bled out and died. That's not unconscious. That's like, there's a pool of blood throughout my place.
Right.
I mean, look,
I'm just assuming, like, you know, alcohol played a major factor in that, and that, you know, everybody was out late the night before and stuff. And even though the one roommate, like, saw and heard things that weren't right, you know, if they slept in, but
yeah, it could have just been some drunk person who couldn't tell the difference between knocking boots and the sounds of knocking boots and the sounds of, you know, human suffering.
Yeah,
true.
Again, if you thought it was knocking boots, why did you look out your door 3 times?
Yeah, creep.
Well, no, I don't believe that they thought that. Exactly.
Yeah, I know. I'm with you,
creep,
man.
Yeah. But, so now even the thing with the lawyer. Now, there was a lawyer that is what? I'm confused about the whole... she's
public defender.
Yeah, the public defender now, right?
Right. So in Idaho is quite small, and she's only one of 13 public defenders in the state. And she's the only one in the northern part of Idaho that's approved by the state's Public Defense Commission to lead a capital punishment case. So they're not any lawyer is able to take on a case that could be a capital punishment case. So,
all right. So a lady who is defending him has also defended. I had seen 2. Well, so far 2 of the mothers of the victims, and you're saying a father also included with the victims.
So Kernodle's mother was the most recent one, and she was the one that the public defender or defense attorney, her name's Ann Taylor. So she was in the midst of defending Kernodle's mother. It was for drug charges. She had 2 felony counts for possession of controlled substance. And what's interesting too is I read that because of Kernodle's mother's addiction, that she had actually given the defense, the public or Ann Taylor, the defense attorney, power of attorney because she felt like she couldn't make sound decisions with being an addict. So in 2020, the same public defender defended Mogen's father for miscellaneous drug charges. And then in 2022, she represented Mogen's stepmother on a miscellaneous drug charge and 2 felony drug counts. Both parents made a deal with the prosecutors and pled guilty. And I know Mogen's father even did jail time for that.
Real quick, and then we'll get right back to this because I do want to keep talking about that. But there is a question in the chat about anything known about the stabbing, because yes, the person did make a good point in the chat. If you were just slicing necks, you could get out pretty fast.
That's true. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
I'll give him that.
So here we go. The 4 University of Idaho students murdered in a horror attack in an off-campus home suffered multiple stab wounds from a large knife, according to local coroner, as she revealed that DNA samples have been collected from the crime scene. Then later, 2 more paragraphs down, Latah County Coroner Kathy Mabut confirmed that each victim was stabbed multiple times, describing their wounds as pretty extensive and revealing that they bled out inside their student home. So I guess, the multiple stab wounds, maybe there was a little bit more time spent. Even if it was done pretty quickly, the fact that obviously they bled out from dying, but so there should still be a ton of blood. So
yeah,
the whole passed out person, I don't get that. I don't.
Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but multiple stab wounds. Maybe it wasn't as easy as slice and go, but it doesn't say where and how many. Right. But it does say that it was multiple. So
and again, like if he went in there and slit all 4 of their throats, which arguably could be the case. First, like, what's with all the multiple stab wounds? Like, a multiple stab wounds death should be one that has a lot of flailing and fighting and screaming. It's like, look at the Varg Vikernes case. He stabbed Euronymous, I think, for all you numerologists out there and occultists, I think he stabbed him 33 times. Maybe it was 32. I can't, I never differentiate between the 2 numbers. It's almost the same number to me. Yeah. But I'm a bloodbath, an absolute bloodbath, and a loud one.
Yeah, so back to, all right, the lawyer. Now, you said I had known the two mothers were both drugs. One of them, and I, God forgive me, I'm just calling a spade a spade. One of them, when they do interview her, she's got like the gypsy bandana on her head. She's got like 4 teeth in her mouth. She's got a guitar in the back seat. I'm just like, and then you go and look at the girls that were supposedly in this, that died, and that were in this house, and I'm just like, how does this even equate? But whatever, it's just very weird. But like all 3 of them are actually all drugs as well, right?
Yeah. And I did forget to mention earlier that Kaylee Goncalves, I don't know how to Goncalves, had recently moved out ahead of her upcoming graduation in December as she was moving to Austin, Texas for a new tech firm job. And she was just visiting her best friend, Madison Mogen. So she wasn't even living there anymore. And her and Madison were found in the 1 bedroom together. So I didn't know if a lot of people were aware of that she didn't even live there anymore. So I figured I'd mention that real quick before I forgot.
That I didn't know. Very interesting.
And I think she was one of the ones that they're saying Kohberger might have sent her an Instagram message because he followed her, but she didn't follow him back.
Oh, that was going to be my next question. Is there any inkling of motive or connection to these people from the alleged killer? I'm struggling for, is it a random act or is there a connection?
There's some speculation, that he had went to the restaurant they worked at, although the restaurant owner denied this, but I don't know if the restaurant owner, maybe potentially be under a gag order like law enforcement and can't even talk about that to begin with. But then there's a lot of speculation that Kohberger was what is known as an incel, an involuntary celibate. And that pretty much is, young men who are awkward and they have trouble, talking to women, and they come off as strange and creepy. And so there's, over the years, these online forums that they congregate in, and they talk about these problems, and they call girls who are unattainable to them as Stacy's, and then men who get the Stacy's Chads. It's a very bizarre thing. But I had heard about it, on a documentary I watched in the past and stuff. And it came to surface on this. So, and I know they said in some of Bryan's classes that he was always spoke condescendingly to, the women, or he would, kind of poke and prod and question them, and their responses in classes and stuff. He was, more forceful with them during seminar discussions, and he would tend to push back when a female was talking more than a male. And then he also talked down to LGBTQ individuals, those who are in a marginalized community, those who were disabled, and women. So I don't know if he developed a hate for women because he came off as socially awkward. But those are, it's very tight-lipped with the gag order. So we really don't know much other than the potential Instagram connection and the possible restaurant connection that's been spoken about.
It's
all right, so widely speculative, pretty much at this point,
Yeah.
and leaving people like us with imaginations to run wild.
For real, yeah. My whole my imagination with this case really does run wild, actually. But one thing I did also want to get into real quick. I think when is it, June, that they're supposed to be going to trial?
Yeah.
I know they have also put out, and I'll plug the other show. It's called The Lawyer You Know, I think.
Yeah.
If you want to check him out, he does actually go over this is how it works. I know I even know from, unfortunately, going through the federal system myself, that your lawyer has to actually, your lawyer who's defending you has to actually ask the other lawyer for the evidence that they have.
Discovery, yeah.
Yes, the discovery. And they have to actually ask specifically, or the other lawyer does not have to give it to you. And then you'll just find out what they have when you go to trial and be screwed. So you even have to make sure you have a lawyer that's good at even asking for what you need. But so they have done that, and I think in there, and this isn't even everything though that they're asking for, but I think so far what they've asked for is already like over 1,000 pieces of evidence. Now it could be, and I think they did state one picture is actually just one sheet of evidence, So that could be like 1,000 pictures, but whatever. But they have over, I think, like 1,000 pieces, one video, and something else, supposedly. So, what is all, and that's not even all of it. So you're already saying you have 1,000 pieces of evidence about how this kid's getting charged, but yet we know nothing.
And they didn't even tell the public to be on the lookout for this white Hyundai until like way late in the game. That pissed the parents off. It's like, why were they not even trying? Like, they have quite literally their own Jack the Ripper, and they don't want the public's help. They're not telling the parents what car to be on the lookout for. Why did the parents hear that they were on the lookout for this vehicle when the rest of the public heard? Why would they not say to the parents, did your kids know anyone with a white Hyundai? Why did none of these things happen? And I was being a little bit flippant when I said the sheath with the blood on it on the crime scene was like an orgy of evidence. But what you're saying here is that there is an orgy of evidence, a literal orgy of evidence. What is it all? Why was it treated like almost like a cold case for weeks and then turn into like a serial killer show?
And it even states in the discovery when they're asking for this stuff, it even states that there is stuff that is evidence that you may have to actually ask the judge for that we don't have to give you. Because they're even stating this isn't all of it. If you want the rest, you have to have the judge ask us and get it from us.
So
that's why I'm saying you're only getting 1,000 out of what?
Bryan, to answer your question a little bit, I I know they did the video canvas, and then they saw that the white Hyundai went back to Washington State University, and then they had the Washington State University police go through the list of vehicles, and that's when they found that the Hyundai came back to Bryan. So at that time, they didn't have enough probable cause yet for an arrest, which is why they followed him back to Pennsylvania. And I believe it was from the trash. They got DNA from his father that they were able to show was, in relation to him. It was like a 99.9999% chance that it was Bryan. And so then they were able to, say, hey, we have this DNA. And he's like, probably the only person in the world. And I think that's when they actually arrested him because they didn't have probable cause. They only were meeting reasonable suspicion at the time, I believe.
Which is interesting because that's the same exact way they picked up the Golden State Killer in California. It was like they matched him to like 99.999 and whatever percent to someone in an ancestry record or something like that.
And I found out what's really interesting is there's only 2 companies, and I think the one's like DNA Tree or something, and I forget what the other one is.
Like
it's a
23andMe, maybe.
It's not the big names. It's not 23andMe and it's not Ancestry.
Okay.
But there are 2 names I never heard of before, and they are the only 2 companies where they can turn DNA over to law enforcement only if the customer opts in on it.
Right.
Because I thought I used
you
to
probably
think,
opt in as soon as you sign the paperwork for them.
Yeah, it's probably in the fine print.
I'm opting.
Right.
You have to opt out if you don't want to be in it.
So
exactly.
Because before I just automatically assumed, that's what they were doing was, like the big companies of 23andMe and stuff. And when I was researching this case, an expert was talking and said that's, the general misconception that, any company you submit your DNA for, Ancestry and stuff like that, law enforcement has access to. And I guess that's not, true from what they say. So.
I do have a question in the chat, and then I think at this point we could wrap it up. Before I do ask what's going on in the chat, I did want to just bring up again, if people are interested in this, go definitely check out, if you want to check out the discovery stuff, the lawyer, and I even will tell you now, just from my experience, and he even mentions it, if you go look at the discovery, I mean, it's a 20-minute video. Honestly, I could just tell you right now, he's just going to tell you there's a bunch of evidence that we don't know about. And that just because now they are asking if there's any co-defendants, we need to know about it. And if there was any, who were those? Informants. We need to know about it. Now, that's not meaning definitely that there was. Because I will say again, from my experience, knowing, I mean, my lawyer asked for that as well, even though we already knew the situation. But
kind of like the lawyer's version of saying, "You're not a cop, are you, man?" Like you got to say it, or else you're not doing your job right.
So it could just be like a template, but we never know. We never know because, and something I even forgot to mention. Also, I'm almost positive it's been confirmed or even said in the news. One of the first statements he said when he got caught. Did anybody else get arrested? He asked that. So a lot of people are like, well, what's up with that, too?
That kind of smacks the Son of Sam, doesn't it?
Yeah, and this is the whole thing, too, and I don't want to knock the house or what was going on in there because, 4 people probably really did die. That's horrible. But I do just also wonder, I mean, it's a college house. Kids, could there have been drugs, maybe prostitution? Could there have been anything going on in there? Just besides what he did. To where he could have asked that. Who knows what was really going. I just find it weird.
Man.
You have no idea what's going on inside of a party college house.
Kids eat Tide Pods.
Or something that looks like a college. You never know.
Yeah.
And snort condoms.
Yeah, kids snort condoms, eat Tide Pods, and butt chug these days. So, I mean, who knows? I don't want to know what they do in their Airbnbs.
But real quick.
And
go ahead.
And I forgot. I didn't know if you wanted to touch briefly on the conflict of interest with this attorney.
Oh yeah. That's why I did bring that up before. Yeah.
Yeah. With her representing those 3 other parents, the issue, becomes a conflict of interest where, if it does become a death penalty case, the, parents might be called to the stand, and then she would be cross-examining them. So if he gets convicted and is found guilty, this could be a perfect appeal for him. Is this conflict of interest?
I've heard that too.
So, it's a very, and even other legal professionals were saying, she didn't, handle it appropriately. She should have stuck with staying on Kernodle's case and turned down Kohberger's because of this conflict of interest. But that's not what she did. And I don't, know if part of it's because of there's only, 13 public defenders, and she's the only one in the northern part of the state that can, represent a capital, murder case.
I think I even heard
maybe
that,
she was chasing fame.
I even had heard that like she may have even have taken it just because of the value, like the defenders.
Yeah, I mean, this could make her,
she literally, this literally could have just been
like,
about money.
I mean,
too.
she'd be like OJ's
Weird.
lawyers.
Yeah.
It's very weird.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. I said you could, regardless, maybe he gets convicted and didn't do it. It could get tossed out because of this, or he did do it and you have an OJ thing going on now because of a technicality. It gets tossed out.
Right. And
it's
another
like,
thing
was that done on purpose?
Right. And another thing is, like, we talked about, like, how could he have made so many mistakes? Part of me is wondering, maybe he wanted to get caught.
I've heard people
like
say
maybe
that too.
he wanted, to be noticed. Like, I mean, for God's sakes, you see all these like serial killers go to prison and then they have all these groupies and they marry one of them. Like,
maybe.
True.
Or maybe
So
he's
Dahmer-
just that
Dahmer
narcissistic
has
that he
groupies.
thinks he's going to dig his way out of it, even though, what we know so far seems, like pretty, damning evidence. So, but
All right, so quick just to this question. I didn't even know this existed. I wish I would have heard of this prior. I have someone asking any validity to this, and maybe because it's just like people aren't sure if it's a screenshot going around that's supposedly dropping truth, but any validity to the research participants needed post Kohberger made seeking participants for understanding emotions and decision making when committing a crime that led to a conviction. And then somebody else said, his Reddit post. Have any of you even heard of that? So
I didn't, they might have been talking about it on Reddit, but he was doing for part of his research for, I'm assuming it was the PhD program. I don't think it was when he was in the master's program. He was doing research and looking for, convicted individuals and kind of looking at their crime and the state they were in when they committed the crime and stuff. So
so he really was doing that, actually.
Yeah, from what I understand, it sounds like that. I mean, don't quote me on that, but that seemed to be something that was, not just like being discussed on like, forums like Reddit, but like in the news, like different news outlets were also bringing that up. I think it's been taken down now. I think the research was actually posted somewhere or something, or where you could look at it, and I think they took it down.
Okay. Maybe it probably did exist. Doesn't mean anything. Who knows?
Right. Just like Washington State, all their like information on their, they had a directory of like the PhD students and the master's students, and they took all that down because a lot of that had contact information and everything on it. And they also got rid of Bryan Kohberger's name on, stuff too. So, they probably are trying to do a lot of scrubbing to save their reputations and stuff. So, and just distance themselves.
Yeah, understandable.
Yeah. All right. Well, I thought that was a really interesting discussion on a crime that just is really weird. Yeah. There's tons of things. I mean, I could go on. Unfortunately, it's just I'm kind of tapped with time, but I do have a lot of weird conspiracy theories about this.
It's just begging for them. This situation is just begging for speculation. I mean,
honestly, I guess really just to make it quick, I do question the MK Ultra sense to this. regardless of what it could have been, who knows? It could have been a cleanup guy, who the fuck knows? But something is just very wrong with this. You know?
I don't know what, to expect in the upcoming months and, the trial and stuff, but I do suspect there's going to be some pretty significant plot twists.
Yeah, and that should be in June. And real quick, Bryan, do you know offhand when the Kylie Rodney starts too?
I don't. I'm gonna have to look into that.
I don't think they're too far away from each other, so we might have some interesting things coming out around the same time.
Yeah, we'll have to circle back.
Because those are two cases that really make no sense either.
I know, man. Yeah, a lot of mysteries flying around right now.
But thank you both very much for coming on. Bryan, like I said before, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much. Do you want to plug your stuff again real quick?
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for having me. Really interesting discussion. I needed a refresher on it because this has been ongoing since last year. I cover so many stories. So my new show at TNT Radio is called State of the Nation. And I run that with John Matlin, who ran for Congress out there in New York. And he's been a vocal activist for medical freedom and accurate reporting on stuff. So I'm really pleased to hang with John. And I also have CC Woods with me, who runs thecurrentreport.com. She's an investigative reporter. And it's a really fun show. We have a good time. We go through the daily news and we try to bring subject matter experts on when we can. And we invite people to call in. So Monday through Friday, tntradio.live for State of the Nation. And then I host the Boiler Room also at alternatecurrentradio.com. All the information for that is up on the website. And we have a YouTube channel, Alternate Current Radio, which doesn't get as much stuff as our Rockfin channel lately because we're uncensored over there. And all our content is in the free categories. So anybody can check it out. And that's it. That's it for me. Thanks for having me. Fun discussion, you guys.
Of course. And NYX, you want to plug your little Instagram?
Sure. Writing on Bryan's coattails.
It's a major Instagram. This is the Instagram, man. Get out there and follow it.
It's NYX NYX period 1223.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I had a great time. Thank you everybody who jumped in on the chat. Actually, it was had a decent amount of people for the topic. I was a little surprised, and we had people asking questions. That's exactly why I do it. So thank you very much. And everybody else, have a good one. Later.